Welcome to another episode of Low Tech Garage, and we are back on the XJ. And I think it's best to start this episode by saying my viewers were right. Some of you may remember in the last episode, I was tackling an oil leak on this, and I had found a smoking gun, or at least I thought, which was the oil filter was a little loose, so I kind of cranked that down, and it seemed like the oil leak had stopped. However, I was wrong.
This is not what you want to see when you back your Jag out after working on it for a week. I guess I didn't fix the oil leak.
So here we are into the car, probably 3 weeks later, and you'll notice it's covered in oil again. Admittedly, I did just drain the oil, and I did pull the filter out, and that is because of the work we're going to do today in order to resolve this once and for all. And we're going to resolve this with these parts right here. So, most likely the culprit, oil filter housing O-ring. So we got a new one of these. I also got an oil pan gasket because it's really hard to tell if that's leaking or not. I also got a new oil filter, and I got a little bit of oil here and a bunch more laying around the shop. Well, I can't avoid it any longer. It's time to get underneath the car. Step one, I'm gonna spray down all that oil residue and try and get the block all nice and clean before we start taking this apart. That way we have a clean surface to work with. And then from there, we're gonna drop the oil pan, try and get that oil filter housing out of the way, and we can do a little bit inspection and see if we can see any damage. My guess is after 15 years, these can just get really hard and brittle, and with the heat cycling at the engine, it's just leaking. So let's get started. All right, well, we'll see if you can see this under here, but we're gonna start washing this down. Don't worry, I've got a catch pan down here. All right, well, this is kind of flashing off still, but we can actually see aluminum again. So that's a good start. And if I get under here, it's a little, let's see if I don't block my own light. We can do this. Here's the oil filter housing. There's one of the bolts. I'm gonna have to undo this. And I think there's one more bolt up there. And we can pop this off and we can investigate the O-ring. And equally, while that's off, we'll get a little more cleaning if possible. And then we'll come down here, tackle the oil pan. Like I said, I'm not convinced that the oil pan is leaking, but I figured let's just, while we're in there, this situation, and get it all taken care of. Okay, so we are under the car. Little cramped up here, but these are 10 mil, and apparently there we go, not super tight, which I guess is a good thing. Could also be why it was leaking. And you know, if you want a little bit of weekend fun, highly recommend doing this service on your Jag 4.2 V8. Probably good preventative maintenance if it hasn't been done. I had this same issue on my 2004 as well. So I'm gonna get on with this, get this top one out, and then we're gonna move on to this guy right here. And you'll meet me back once we get this housing off. Well, it didn't come down how I wanted. Oh, did I get something on the lens? There we go. The oil pan's off, filter housing's off, and Yeah, I made a bit of a mess. Definitely gonna be a little bit cleanup here. But let's get on the bench and see what we're working with. Okay, so we are over on the bench. We have a very suspicious oil filter housing that is very caked with grime and oil residue. And then over here we have the oil pan. And just to get the idea of kind of why we're changing these gaskets, I will show you, but if you notice on the edge right here, the oil pan gasket is still attached to the oil pan. Now, some of the folks that may have not done this before may think, that's a unique design. I wonder how it does that. Let me show you. And the answer is, it doesn't. You can see there's a really nice groove here in the bottom of the motor. Let's get a little closer. I apologize, it's a little dark under here. My battery died on my light. Seems to be a common problem in the shop. But you can see here, we have a nice little channel that the pan gasket actually presses up into, and then you seat the pan up. So basically what that means is this is fused on here because of age, and it is just kind of hard and crispy. So we're going to peel this guy up, which I will say this is rather satisfying. There she goes. And that is our old gasket off and ready for the trash. And now for the fun part, cleaning. Well, that was certainly rewarding. Let's get on with the oil filter housing and see if we have the same success with this one. Okay, well that was entertaining. Yeah, this thing was really gunked up, but as you can see, it is way better. Definitely makes me realize I need to get my parts washer hooked up here. Don't have it set up at the shop yet. Would have been a lot more efficient, but the cake tong grease is gone. We'll give this one last spritz before it goes in. O-ring's out, it's nice and clean in here. So before we put this back, obviously we'll mount the O-ring. I'll show you how to do that. And this is where your oil filter mounts. That's all nice and clean too. So like I said, I'll give this a final cleanup before it goes back in the car when I'm showing you how to put the O-ring in here. But let's take a look at the oil pan as well. Don't worry, there's more cleaning coming up next. And that cleaning is going to be under here. Let's get a little closer. So you guys can kind of see up on this lip, there's residue, so I want to wipe all this off of the mating surface. So just make sure none of that gets where our nice new oil pan gasket goes. So it's nice and clean. I'll probably take the opportunity to wipe the back of this cross member too, just while you're in there. But overall, the underneath of the motor looks pretty good in here, which is a nice sight. We can just see it peeking right there. That's where the oil filter housing goes. And there's a lot of gunk and grime up there that is going to need to be addressed. So let's get to cleaning. Well, this is super annoying, guys. I was filming some time lapse on this and gonna give you guys some nice voiceover of me installing the gasket up here, pressing it in. I will say the Malo one that I purchased, yeah, it fit great. Honestly, compared to my experience with the OE Jaguar I bought in the past, this one actually seemed to work better. And then, yeah, I put the clean oil pan up and just got these all nipped up nice and tight, and I did put the drain plug in. So the reason I did this before cleaning up here for the filter housing area is I was just concerned about debris getting down and somehow getting in this open piece of the bottom end of the motor. So it allowed me to get the new pan gasket in, cleaned up, oil pan back in, tightened up, and now I'm gonna kind of get in here and try and clean it as best as I can. You can see I've got some rags pressed into actually the passageways into the motor, and I'm just gonna be careful about trying to clean up in this kind of top area up here as best as I can. Again, really sorry that the time lapse seemed to shut off for some reason, so you see me kind of cleaning all of this, and then it just stopped. But yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, we are back at the bench. We have our filter housing, and you can see here, there's a new O-ring / gasket. You see how it has this nice raised lip? Basically, this is what's failing on the old one, just with it being compressed for so long. It kind of loses its seal. But we're gonna get this installed now. All right, and you'll see it's a little shiny. I actually used a little bit of Vaseline. I find with these O-ring style gaskets that it just stops them from ever getting pinched, especially when you are doing the install. So it goes in pretty easy. You just want to make sure it's seated down nicely like this. You can see, and when you look at the profile now, it's not much, but we actually have something to compress, whereas when we took this out, this was completely flush. Let's head back under the car, get this filter housing on, and I could also show you kind of how I was able to clean it up. I just used some brake clean and kind of jetted with the little nozzle all around the opening, but it's looking a lot better. So let's get over there. Certainly not the best, but you can see how much more clean it is now. So we have a nice clean mating surface to get the filter housing on. So let's get started. Okay, well there we have it. Filter housing is back on, torqued up. The oil pressure sensor is plugged back in, and you know what that means. Here's our oil filter. Went with the same brand as all my gaskets. It's priced pretty well. I know a lot of people have their opinions on this. I saw some of you guys saying that Bosch is no good anymore, whereas here in the US, a lot of the time that's sold as a premium brand. So appreciate your guys' feedback on this. I'm sure someone will tell me this isn't the greatest either. But anyway, we are gonna get some nice lubrication on this as well. And from what I could tell last time, the filter wasn't as tight as I had anticipated. So we're gonna go put this on the filter housing now and do it up a little tighter than you would maybe a normal car. See if I can do this with one hand. She goes. She's on. Like I said, doing this up tight by hand. And the awesome thing about that means most of the messy work is done. So my plan here, because I had so much apart, We're gonna fill the engine over here with oil, and I'm gonna let it sit overnight how it is without the under tray on it, and just see if the filter housing is leaking or the oil pan gasket is leaking. As you guys know, this has a very big under tray, and so leaks tend to hide themselves for quite a while before they show up. So let's get over here. We're gonna put about 7.5 quarts of oil in this thing, and then we're gonna let her sit overnight, and we'll see how it's looking in the morning. I have just under 2 quarts left in here, so we'll get that dumped in. All right, well, the motor is filled. Like I said, I'm gonna let this sit overnight just to see if there's any leaks or anything. Reason I say that is the leak I was dealing with, it wasn't really when the car was running, especially when it sat. A huge pool of oil was start to form underneath it. So whatever was leaking without the car running. So this will be a good test overnight to see if that is resolved. So we'll come back here in the morning, we'll get underneath the car, we'll give it a really good inspection, see if we can see any signs of leaks. Then we'll work on getting that under tray back on, and we will check the level. And from there, fingers crossed, we'll properly be back in business this time. So it's the next day, I'm back in the shop, and let's see how our repair has done. And here's under the car, and we are oil free. And here you can see the pan. And if you bear with me a second, we can check that filter housing as well. So here's the filter housing. Before, I kept getting lots of oil drips under here. And as you saw in the video, this whole thing was a complete disaster. And yeah, the car used to leak just sitting there. It wasn't really running that was making the oil leak, just the fact that it's sitting there. And honestly, after dropping the lower pan, I realized by the time you put like the 7 quarts of oil in, oil is all the way up sort of here in the block. So you would get a leak from the pan quite easily if that was not sealed as well. And honestly, all looks really good. So I'm gonna work on putting the under tray back in. I feel relatively confident now that we are not gonna have a giant oil puddle under the Jag, which is definitely what we want. And then we can get this thing back on the road. And there we have it. We have the under tray on. Still see a little bit of residue on there from the leak. I did my best to clean it up, but it was a little pesky. Yeah, you can see a little shiny thing on the floor there. That's just some water. But yeah, we are all done with this. So again, massive shout out to my viewers and subscribers. Thank you for calling this one out and saying, I don't think it's just the oil filter. Check that housing O-ring as well as the pan gasket. You guys were absolutely correct, and you made my life a lot easier. I knew when the leak didn't stop exactly what to order. So thank you so much for guiding me on that. I really appreciate your help. And if you are new to the channel and you found your way here through the Jag content, through my leaky Jag woes, you are in the right place. I have plenty more Jag content on the way. This is just one of many videos that I will be doing on the car, and many to come in the future as well. So thank you so much for watching and enjoying my journey with this beautiful X358 over here and bringing it back from the brink of being scrapped.